Alright, today we're going to talk about cutting cardboard products with utility knives for our projects in the future. So, we have the Stanley 9090 utility knife, an X-acto style artist knife, and then this is an OLFA cutting knife. So each of them have their pros and cons. The Stanley likes to cut straight. The X-acto style knife likes to cut in many different ways. It cuts straight well, it cuts curves well, and then the OLFA really is kind of an in-between because it does have a shorter blade on it, so it can cut curves but not as well as the X-acto knife, and it will cut straight just as well as the Stanley. So let's get to cutting some cardboard. So let's inspect cardboard first so we kind of understand what we're dealing with. Cardboard is kind of a lasagna, if you will, of material. It's got 3 layers. Some cardboards have double that and even triple that, depending on what they're packaging. You can see the bottom layer and you can see the top layer, this nice thin material. If I peel back this corner, we can see the uncovering of how this material works. The beautiful thing about cardboard is we can find it anywhere. It's such in our culture now as we get in packaging, and it's a wood product, so it's just readily available for not just its intended use of getting products shipped, but also for our use in making unique objects out of it. So what we're going to do is approach this, and we're going to cut through the layers. So we're going to need at least 3 cuts to get through this, but probably 4. If your blade is super sharp, you can get through this in 2 safely, but I wouldn't suggest cutting it in one fell swoop, because you can have an accident where the blade skips out of the material and you accidentally stab yourself or cut yourself with it. So yeah, we're going to do a cut with each of these tools so you can see that. So I'm going to use the OLFA knife first, and just going to be doing a straight cut with a freehand straight cut, with just my hands. So knowing where my fingers are is paramount. I'm never going to cut towards myself. That includes my hand, of course, but also I'm standing right now, so if I'm standing straight over this, I'll be cutting straight into my groin, and that would be tragic to slip off the material I'm cutting and then accidentally stab yourself in your chest or your mid region. So knowing that, stand slightly out of the way, or if you're sitting, sit in a way where you're not in direct line to where you're cutting. So this is our second cut through. We're going to take a peek at the material. So we're almost through. You can see that last layer in the middle there. This blade is not as sharp as the other two. We see these fuzzy pieces right in here, and we won't see that with our other blades. And so here we go, our last cut. Now, did we make it all the way through? Let's turn it over and take a look. It just popped off everywhere but right here. So we can come back and just nip this off, and we have our cut. So, and we can see through this, which is wonderful. All right, so we'll get this out of the way. We'll use our artist knife. So this is an X-acto style knife. We'll do the same thing. So I like to hold this one like a pencil, so I can curve the blade if I want. We're just doing a straight cut, so no tricky stuff here. Two cuts. So this is a super sharp, it's a brand new blade. Again, and then we look at our cut quality, and we don't have, compared to our first, all the little fuzzies that are in here. So what causes an accident later on is when the knife gets really dull, all these fuzzy or their tears bunch up together and the blade skips off the top of that. So that can be very dangerous. All right, and we're going to use the Stanley nice sharp blade. You can even not use it on its high settings. We'll go right about there, and then we'll just make this cut. It's 2. I'm just using the weight of my hand to go through this. And 3, 4. Oop. Alright, and then looking at this cut again, nice and clean. It's a super brand new blade on this. Super sharp. It's very nice. Alright, so we have our cuts. That way I'm going to do cuts using this 48-inch rule. Now, things to be aware of here is we want to keep our blade parallel to this edge. And so we don't want to have it veer out. You know, if we move this way, it will cut that way. If we have the blade go that, it will cut into there. If it gets on this happens to be aluminum. If it gets on the aluminum, it could skip and then jump into our hand, or, you know, even worse. So, nice new sharp blade, very light, just using the weight of my hand and the blade to go through this. Very light score, and then it cuts through that middle section halfway, and then the third cut's almost all the way through, and the fourth cut should be through, and it is. So we've got this very nice straight edge. I'm going to use the X-acto knife now. There we go, keeping this edge straight. One should be about halfway through, should be almost all the way through, and the fourth cut should have us free. There it is. So that's very nice too. Very nice straight edge. And last but not least, the OLFA knife. All right. One, and I'm holding this one like this, almost like holding a conductor's wand. And then this is 4, maybe 5. There we go. So it's, again, cutting through the cardboard. It's pretty straightforward. Got some extra board here. This is a thicker cardboard, but it doesn't have as many layers in it. So this is like a poster board, but truth be told, is actually a cereal box. So I'm just going to cut through this using the X-acto knife. Should get through it in 2 cuts. Again, against the rule, right along this edge. So here we go. That's 2, 3. Oh, looks like it's going to take 4. There it went. Alright, this is also wonderful material. You see how it just wants to bend and fold. And then you get all these wonderful colors. to use. Maybe you are making something that has blonde hair, or maybe you need, you know, someone that has almond colored eyes, and so you're stealing different shades of red and brown to make those. You can also steal letters and apparently, you know, all sorts of things that you may want to sneak into the structure that you're making. And this is a nice material to use. Think of shoe boxes and, you know, soft drink or alcohol boxes. A very nice color and logo. Again, remember, don't cut towards yourself. Don't try to cut things through all in one fell cut. Know where your fingers are. And make sure you cut on something. Cutting on a self-healing mat. If you don't have one of those, you can just use another piece of cardboard to cut on top of. And that will have your blade being able to be used longer. So you'll keep your sharpest longer. Imagine if you were cutting on top of concrete and just cutting right through it onto the concrete, you're going to dull that edge very fast. And then the last thing is, remember to have a bunch of extra sharp blades that you can change out of these things, because the sharp blade is a safe blade. All right, thank you guys, and we will tell you some more tips and tricks soon. Thank you. All right, I got a pro tip for you. Pro tip. Let's say you've lost the cover to your X-acto blade and you don't know what to do. One of the easiest things you can do is take the blade out, turn it around, and put it in reverse. Tighten this back down. It's much more safe to travel like this. Now we still have to be careful because we still have this sharp point right here. What you can do now is take a little bit of tape and go over the top of that. Now you're safe to travel with this. All right, all covered up. It's very difficult to get cut now. I'm sure somebody could do it. I'm sure I could do it, because that's how I live my life. But here's a pro tip. It's a nice, safe way to carry this. Unlike these, you know, they self-retract. You know, dangerous now. Now we can travel with it. The same with this. But in using this blue painter's tape, I can take this right off and flip it around and have it ready to go and cut. There's your pro tip.